So On3 released their new rankings, and Alabama, well, they get some good news.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me, Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the absolute best. Jimmy, your company over there, On3, released their new 5 stars. They actually released their whole new updated top 300 players. And boy, some Alabama guys got some bumps.
The Bama Bump is alive and well. I hate the Bama Bump. I enjoy talking about it. It's kind of silly to me because it's so logical. Like I point out to anybody that gets upset about it is, you know, the on-the-field results have justified a Bama Bump over the years, has it not? I mean, maybe Alabama does recruit the best players because the on-the-field results suggest that they do. And again, I give everybody the silly analogy all the time. I can pare it down to a few seconds now, but hey, if a high school team played across the street from you and you heard, wow, Troy has offered a kid across the street from you, you ought to go watch him play. You might go, I don't know. But if somebody says, Iowa has offered a kid that's right across the street from you, you ought to go watch him play, you might go, Iowa, that's in the Big Ten. Maybe I ought to go check that kid out.
Is he a punter?
That's what I get for picking random programs with you. But the point being, there's no such thing as an Iowa bump, but you got more interested when I said, hey, this kid's got an Iowa offer. So that's literally the entire basis of why Alabama and Ohio State and Michigan and Texas and schools, Georgia, when they make offers, kids get bumps. And it only makes sense. They draw eyeballs. When those schools are interested in a player, it draws eyeballs, draws further analysis, and that's what explains it. But I think did not Charles Power in the rankings department at On3, is Alabama maybe number 1 right now?
I think they're number 2.
Number 2. Okay. I was hoping they'd go up to number 1, but you know what may have cost them? If Julian Sayin hadn't, I think losing that 5-star in Julian Sayin, if Sayin hadn't flown the coop, maybe they stick at number 1. Obviously, we replaced him with the 5-star in Ryan Williams. But you know, I'm into recruiting rankings. I'm going to study it when it's complete. I'm going to study the heck out of it because I think it's very relevant to understanding college football landscape. But I'm not like a lot of fans that are just dying to be ranked high. To me, it doesn't matter. To me, what matters is who signed with you and how good are they. And I do realize there are opinions out there, and I want to know those opinions. But, hey, whether Zay Mincy is the number 14 prospect in the country or the number 74 doesn't change who Zay Mincy is. I just want to know how good of a player Zay Mincy is, and I can decide that for myself. And then we get to see him in the fall.
One guy I'm not even finding anywhere in the rankings because we're going to talk about some more. The other guys that Alabama had that moved up. And I just said this, I'm not going to even say what I was going to say because I realize why I'm not seeing it now, and I just screwed up. I'm not going to tell you what I would have screwed up because that's very unprofessional.
Telling on yourself? Not going to tell on yourself.
It would tell on myself, and I'm not doing that. But so I do want to talk about Ryan Williams, though. Here's something that's interesting. There's going to be a little bit of controversy. First of all, on the On3 rankings, this is not crazy. They have Jeremiah Smith, number 1, the wide receiver out of Florida. Fantastic player. Seen him in the All-American game, looked awesome. DJ Lagway at number 2, I think is a little shocking. I mean, it's not crazy that they're 5-star, but I probably would have Julian saying higher, even though Alabama's not getting him anymore. And then they have Cam Coleman 3, and that's where it gets interesting for me. Look, I get it. Cam Coleman's a fantastic player. I would have him a 5-star too. I personally like Ryan Williams a little better. I just think Ryan Williams may be a little more dynamic, but I think Cam Coleman is awesome. And I think it does speak to how good the wide receiver class is. this year when Ryan Williams is technically your third-rated wide receiver, and the number one player in the country is a wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, it is an incredibly deep wide receiver group. I don't get as upset. I mean, there's a lot of people on our BOL board not happy about where Ryan was and thought he should be above Cam Coleman. I would just say I'm not defending On three. I mean, anyone can have an opinion about that. But, you know, Ryan is a full year younger, didn't play a senior year. What would Ryan look like next year? You know, as a 12th grader, he'd just be unbelievably dominant. But he is an entire full year younger than these other kids he's being ranked against. And, hey, what if I told you, I mean, who's the top sophomore quarterback in the country? I'm talking about in college football.
Juju Lewis? Or are you talking about?
I'm talking college football. Let me think off the top of my head. Who would be? Oh, well, Quinn Ewers. Okay. Let's just say Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is very likely to be the number one quarterback in next year's draft cycle. He's likely to be the number one guy. But what if you took him out of next year's draft cycle and put him in this one? Is he going to be ahead of Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May? No, he's not. And in likelihood, he's very possibly not, because he's a whole year young. We haven't seen enough of Quinn Ewers. He's got a whole year of developing left to go before you have to put him on draft boards. I would say that's kind of like what's happening with Ryan Williams. I mean, I think Ryan's, had he stayed in high school, he might have ended up being the number one player in the country in next year's group. Maybe he might have ended that way. But we've taken him out of that group and put him with a group of older kids. And when he went to the National All-Star game, he was dominant. I don't know that you would say he was the best player on the field. You know, so I'm fine with docking him a little bit over the reclass. Look at Jaron Stevenson, our basketball player that was reclassed. He struggled a bit. He's still promising. He's still great. Boy, if he was playing high school basketball right now, he'd be killing people. But he's not playing high school basketball. He's playing college basketball, and it's a bit of a struggle for him. So I get that Ryan will be docked a little bit over the reclass. Doesn't change who he is, what kind of player he is, or how excited we should be. And by the way, being the 8th ranked player in the whole country, it's pretty good.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to complain about that. I do want to talk about the rest of the Bama guys. Also want to talk about a couple of guys from the state of Alabama that raised some eyebrows. A bit of a delayed response there from my computer. But right now I want to tell you about eBay Motors, ebaymotors.com. That's where you want to go. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that big old win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So some other Alabama guys that moved up, and these were impressive. We talked about Ryan Williams. He goes to 8. Zay Mincy goes to number 17. Okay, Zay Mincy.
Most under-talked about star player in our class, and it's probably due to, it was a bit of a surprise to many when it was Alabama, and it was late, so we hadn't really fawned over him like we should. Zay Mincy, an incredible prospect. By the way, projects at corner, projects at Husky, projects at safety. Versatile talent. Shouldn't shock anyone if he's a starter in the fall. Not really. Especially now.
I mean, Alabama misses out on Jabbar Muhammad. Terrion Arnold's gone. Kool-Aid's gone. And Grimsley didn't. He ended up going.
Grimsley's gone. Caleb Downs, even though I know he's a safety, but I mean, Zay Mincy could play safety.
Sure. Then Caleb Odom moves up to a 5-star. All right, Caleb Odom, I see you. Tight end going to 5-star status. Was OJ Howard a 5-star?
Yeah, I think he was. Should have been. I think he was. He had unbelievable measurables, and I don't think we have a 40 time from a verified camp on Caleb Odom. I think it's great that Caleb's a 5-star. Let's see how he handles playing at the line of scrimmage. That's going to be the tough thing for any tight end who's basically a big wide receiver prospect. But what I'm hoping for Caleb Odom is, again, this is a hope. It's not fair, but can Caleb Odom give Alabama the same production that you would have got out of Amari Niblack had he returned? Okay. I don't think that's a crazy ask, but it's not fair, but it's not crazy.
All right. I hear you. I would phrase it another way.
Yep.
Can Caleb Odom get close to the production we all thought Amari Niblack would give us?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like I've said it before, I think Niblack's a fantastic player. I think he's an NFL player. But I think his reputation was more than his production.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of on
that may not be his fault. That maybe Jalen Milroe didn't look his way enough. Maybe the plays weren't called for him enough. Whatever. But I still think that's fair.
It is. And here's one thing, let's get on to people here a little bit, because I've been reading this a lot. You know, all last offseason, all of us, including me and you, were spearheading this charge. Run the damn ball. That's what we want to do. RTDB, Seth McLaughlin even got the hat. A lot of y'all ordered the hat. Run the damn ball. We wanted Alabama to run the ball, and they did. They came out in 12 personnel, which is we're going to run the ball formation. And they did run it more than they did before. Even had the quarterback running 20 times a game against the good opponents. So they did run the ball more. Now, fast forward a year. What are people complaining about? You know, we're losing wide receivers because they didn't get enough targets. We didn't throw it to Niblack enough. We didn't throw it to Bond enough. We didn't throw it to Burton enough. When are they ever going to throw it to Kendrick Law? I thought y'all wanted to run the ball. And they did. So you can't do both. You can't say run the ball more and throw it more. Right? I mean, it's just math. So I would just tell folks, yeah, I agree that I would have liked to have seen Niblack caught more balls. I would have liked to have seen Isaiah Bond catch more balls and throw more to the backs. But the fact of the matter is we wanted to run the ball more, and we did. They did what we asked, and we're still complaining. I guess that sounds like football fans.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Like if you have a lot of production, if you have a lot of catches out of all these different guys, and even if you have a lot of carries at the same time, you're like, well, we don't really have a lot of big plays. We're sort of dink and dunk. Because if everybody's got a lot of catches, then you probably aren't getting a lot of home run hits. And you're like, well, why can't we complete the deep ball? Whatever it is, people are going to complain. And I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, especially.
I got into it on the board. One thing that drives me nuts, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs had such a big game. And I've seen this, gosh, we wasted Jahmyr Gibbs. And I read that and I'm like, he was our leading rusher. He had the most carries by far. He had like 40 more carries than any other back. He was also the leading receiver. So we gave him the ball more than anybody else on the team. We threw him the ball more than anyone else on the whole team. He had almost 200 touches, and we helped make him the number 12 pick in the draft. I don't understand what people want. I mean,
you know, you wonder.
Should we have given him the ball more? I guess.
Don't you wonder?
Giving him the ball the most was
don't you
pretty
wonder
good.
How Jahmyr Gibbs in that whole era would be perceived if he had made that catch against Tennessee late?
That's a great point, because, I mean, for as much as, you know, Jahmyr was awesome, and he was awesome, and every player's entitled to make a goof, but, boy, that Gibbs drop, I mean, that cost us the Tennessee game. So did 6 or 8 or 9 other plays, any one of which
that's the one I remember.
Game. But that's the one a lot of people remember, and it was a touch to Gibbs that just didn't work out. Then the ball touched the ground.
All right, so final 5-star, number 31 is Jalen Mbakwe, and he moves up into 5-star status, which is huge. And look, he is a resident Gump, and we appreciate his gumpedness. and he is a Bammer through and through, and he's going to be a star, I think. So the defensive back lineup Alabama has coming in, unbelievable. And then one other thing I want you to comment on, Jimmy, is the fact that, I blanked for a second. I'll have to go back here. Jordan Ross from Vestavia Hills, he moves to the number 7 player in the country, and he is a 5-star.
Yeah, a couple things about him because I think it's extremely interesting. First of all, I do like Jordan Ross as a prospect. I think he's really, really good. Just my personal opinion, I don't think he should be ranked that high. I don't think he's that good. That's Jimmy talk, and Charles and the recruiting ranking people are better at this than me. But I'm just, in my opinion, Jordan's not quite that. But he is a really good prospect. I don't know all the details there. It's a little bit of a Cam Coleman situation, a little bit, but here's how I'll explain it. And not enough people take this advice, not enough that should. If there is something weird in recruiting, let's say you're a pretty smart football guy and you know how this all works and you're an astute observer, and you see something in recruiting that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, like how is Jordan Ross 7 and Alabama didn't really recruit him? Here's an explanation that solves basically all of that, and that explanation is NIL. And when you see something weird that doesn't make sense to you, assume it's NIL and move on. And that's my advice here. It just, there's a lot of weird results out there, and some guys are. Look, we have to start looking at this a little bit like we look at free agency. A lot of us are Major League Baseball fans or NFL fans, and you have a favorite Major League team, and you want a shortstop, and the number 1 shortstop is on the free agent market, but he wants $30 million in 6 years, and he's 30 years old, and your smart general manager goes, I know y'all want this guy to be shortstop, but I'm not giving $180 million guaranteed dollars to a guy who's 30 years old, and I'm not confident that he's going to be the same player at age 35 he is right now at 29. So I'm not doing it. There are similar decisions made regarding NIL. Some kids aren't worth what the price tag is, and in the estimation of the general managers that make these decisions at the college level. We got to get used to that as fans, that, hey, yeah, some kids are good, some kids are good enough, but you're not going to pay that. I mean, it's just like we all buy cars, right? And we all want a car, and you go into the lot and it's 10,000 more than you think it should be. You're probably not going to pay it. So there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that there was also, there didn't seem to be a lot of mutual interest from the jump. From him and from Auburn and from Alabama, which is a little weird, which NIL may totally explain, but that would mean Tennessee was NILing him before anybody else, because I never heard a lot of connection with Alabama and Auburn with him from the jump.
Yeah, it's not quite Cam Coleman. There was, and I can confirm there was interest on Alabama's part and Auburn's part, but that interest didn't really get off the ground. Make of that what you will.
Okay.
Unlike Cam Coleman, who just didn't communicate with Alabama very much. That's a different situation. He just didn't have an interest in Alabama for whatever reason.
Cam Coleman has actually said, here's the other thing. Cam Coleman has actually said, if Jimbo Fisher's not fired, I'll go to A&M.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where he wanted to go, and I think he's got relatives out there. But to me, it's like maybe the ballet. I mean, you might tell me, hey, Jimmy, this is the best ballet in the whole world, and you can go for free, and it's right down the street, and it's the best ballet. I'm like, I don't want to see the ballet. I just don't want to see it. I think that's what Cam Coleman was like with Alabama. Like
I'll get you I'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings. Let me know when the ballet's over.
I think that's what Cam told Alabama. I'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings in College Station or Auburn, but not in Tuscaloosa.
Not in Tuscaloosa. All right, Jimmy, we're going to start your roster ranking when we come back. But I got to tell everybody about FanDuel. It is Super Bowl time. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs against the 49ers. Boy, I hate that the Lions didn't make it. But happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. You could have done that yesterday in the in the AFC and NFC championships. That would have been a ton of fun. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and who's going to do the scoring, all these different things. New customers join today and get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5, and if that wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Jimmy, are you still there? Well, I think I have lost Jimmy for just a minute, and I'm going to start his countdown for him. At least I hope I am, because it seems like everything is good on my end. So hopefully Jimmy will be right back. And I say I'm going to start his countdown for him. I don't know what his countdown is. That's how little preparation we did for this podcast today, because I like to be surprised by Jimmy and his countdowns as well. So I think Jimmy had a bit of a technical difficulty, and he's back now. Jimmy, are you back?
I am back.
I think that was on your side, because I was still getting emails and stuff, and so I think way to screw up the podcast.
Could have been. I blame it on mice probably in the building.
So start your roster countdown now, because now we have very little time.
Well, I started at I ranked the roster on BOL on 3, right? A new thing every day. We can go over it here. It's basically kind of jived up with the start of spring practice. So it started about a week ago. I started with number 57, meaning there are 57 players on the roster who have either returned from last year plus transfer portal guys, because I only want to rank guys who have played college football either in a game or on the practice field with Alabama's players. This is not about, we're not ranking true freshman early entry guys against college football players, because we haven't seen them play college football yet. So this is about returning guys and transfer portal guys who played college football somewhere else. So I started at number 57, and 57 for me was Jaron Hamilton, wide receiver from Gainesville. Quiet redshirt year. Now, that does not mean Jaron Hamilton's the expectations shouldn't be high for some folks. Doesn't mean he won't be a significant player. Got a heck of an opportunity this spring, because some of the wide receivers that we signed won't be showing up. So I think there's only going to be 8 wide receivers on scholarship out there this spring. Heck of an opportunity for Jaron. It's a new staff. The offense is wide receiver friendly. So this is a guy that right now I put at the bottom at number 57. But when we do a post-spring ranking, who knows how high he might shoot up. He's just 57 now, because this ranking won't be super kind to redshirts, who we haven't seen much of. And of all the kids who redshirted, maybe we could say that maybe his was the most quiet redshirt. But again, that it doesn't mean much for the future. And I had to start with someone, and I'm still happy this kid's on the team, and he's got a heck of an opportunity this spring to get upwardly mobile on that depth chart. So at number 57 is Jaron Hamilton.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I think about Jaron Hamilton. The first thing I thought of when you talked about him was, I know he's really fast. Like, that's sort of his thing. And I'm thinking that's a guy who could break out under this new system. Yeah. I'm thinking, like, if you're a wide receiver on the team, you got to kind of feel like this is a fresh start, right?
Nickname's Turbo, by the way. I don't think they give that to the slow guy.
unless it were ironic.
It'd be funnier if they did. Yeah. But no, his nickname's Turbo.
It would be funnier.
He's going to be, well, next year we have Turbo Rogers joining us, the running back, the 2025 running back commit. So we'll have a couple of Turbos. It'll be very confusing when it comes to making dinner reservations or dinner time. Hey, Turbo. And now you got 2 guys showing up.
And then, of course, you got the one slow guy that they ironically call.
Right.
He didn't get there. He just gets there much later.
Yeah, some walk on from Huntsville. Hey, Turbo. Can y'all quit calling me that?
Well, so we'll leave it there, Jimmy, with your rankings. And I want to say one other thing about basketball. You know, Alabama has moved into the AP top 25 again in basketball, number 24. Going to be an interesting week. You're at Georgia at a weird time at 5:30. And let us not forget, a couple of years ago, Alabama was Georgia's only SEC win. The only one they got. They were 1-17, and the one was us. So we owe them a little bit. But let's also say this: Georgia's pretty good. I mean, they're not the best team in the country or anything. They're pretty doggone good.
It won't be a shocking upset like last time. Last time was a shocking upset when kind of the low point of the season for Alabama. There is no shame in losing to this Georgia team in Athens. They're legit good. That they got a dude, Blue Kane.
Yeah, he's got hops, man. He was dunking all over Florida.
He's shocking.
He's a freshman, I think.
He's good. And of course, Abdul Rahim. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he's a heck of a player. They got some dudes. Oh, Melendez.
RJ Melendez. Yeah, he had he averages 10 points a game or something, and he had over 30 against Florida, I think. So
yeah, I'll be totally honest when I say I know they're good because I can name 3 of their players. In college basketball, that's saying quite a bit for me. They changed the rosters out so much; it's hard to get used to who's playing who. But I've seen Georgia enough to name 3 of their players because I was like, wow, and yeah, they'll be a tough opponent. Home against Mississippi State Saturday. Got to go 1-1 this week. 2-0, and boy, you're starting to talk about a sweet seed in this big tournament.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.